Hello, everyone. Jerry Tavares here with the one and only Anthony Pinto, and welcome to Shift Hits the Fan. Anthony, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
Very good.
Nice weather here today.
Is it okay? Sounds like we can play some golf, Tony, after this.
Bright and sunny. Yeah.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about agility. How do you shift from the work that you're doing right now with your team into a more agile and cohesive team? The reason why we wanted to discuss this is because some of our clients are having the issue that since the agile methodologies are being more present at the organization, they need to be more nimble because the economy continuously change and needs and wants are continuously evolving. And
Mm.
especially for the big companies, it's really difficult to just adjust. And today we're going to be talking about from the manager perspective as well as from the employee's perspective on how we can become more agile and work much better than how we're doing right now. So, Tony, let's start it up.
Yeah, I guess first thing we get to realize is that why is agility now required, right? Uh, Things are changing much faster than they did before, and even the pace of change is accelerating. Yeah. So when they came out with those different systems of um, sort of frameworks for being agile, mainly in technical projects, right? You have Scrum, you have Kanban, and you all different models, right? Uh, but the question is, how do I move from where I am to where I can be agile, which means I can respond in a very short time and very quickly to changing customer needs and demands, changing or impact on supply chain. How do we get there, right? So the key is this: there are three things that are really fundamental to moving towards agility. One is the mindset. The mindset cannot be the same as before, right? Because change is happening so fast. You got to think differently, different kind of mindset. Then you got to have the system in place also. And what are the systems you have? Would be your systems of management, systems of structure of management, and then you got to have processes in place also. So these are the three key things that define agility. Now, I just checked up with Gallup and said, okay, how is agility measured and all of that? And I found that when they did some measurements in Germany, this was in 2019, only 9% of employees in organizations felt that a company was agile. It's 2019. And in 2022, they did it, for 2, 3 years. But in 2022, when they did it the last time, the perception of agility of the organization had gone up to 22%. So 1 in 5 employees in Germany think or feel that their company is agile. And that's a pretty low number, right? Considering what's happening now. So how do managers then, suffering the onslaught of those changes, get themselves agile first, isn't it? So and that's really the key. So and one of the things that are really important is that mindset, growth mindset, the ability to change, ability to adapt. What are they doing to be themselves first agile? Yeah. Um, so there were very key things that happens. For example, I remember my own personal experience. This was already 30 years ago, right? I was new into the organization at a very senior level, and I was reporting to the CEO. Now, of course, this group was new, and I was, heading the corporate planning, which means taking the organization to new levels of businesses, new areas of businesses. So you do need quite a bit of flexibility, agility, and all of that, right? And I was ready for it, accepting that what I was suffering during that time was a constant disempowerment. So my supervisor was always kind of disempowering me, demeaning me. I couldn't understand why, right? So when you have a culture or mindset of disempowerment, you're not enabling, you're not empowering, you're not encouraging, you're not building growth mindset for your team, it's very difficult to move towards agility.
Tony,
Just kind of background.
and the question there, for everyone that is listening, the question there is, why does that happen even though normally we know that we should shift? But why does it continuously happen? That's number one. And number two, for the listeners here, Tony used the Gallup example from Germany. And many people who are across the world listening to us might be saying, well, why Germany? Well, I live in Germany and my clients are German. Those are the companies that I work for or work with. And we were talking off the podcast about this the other day. And we said this would be really interesting for us to talk about it, since it's something that we see every day in our work lives. So that's why Tony used that example, in case that you guys are wondering, why Germany? Why Germany? So, but back to the question, why is it that it keeps happening, even though we know that we need to be more nimble, more agile, more flexible, even though we're getting older? What would you say, Tony, the answer to that?
Well, I think as you mentioned earlier, right, some of the managers feel threatened. As you said, if I get more agile, which means I am giving up more of my power, right? And managers are trained to control, right? And so they can't control as much as they did before. But the reality is this: if you stay with that kind of a mindset, you're going to be out of the market pretty soon. Yeah. I mean, think what's happening now in the semiconductor industry. I mean, NVIDIA, is really wanting to develop the new technology, and yet China is coming up much faster. Now, how are they going to adjust accordingly, right? So you really got to be so open to change, consider the thinking processes. You just got to consider what's possible, and not stay onto your ground and say, See, one of the structures that's really impacting on agility today is that no longer should organizations be just driven by the functional matrix. It doesn't work anymore effectively. More and more, they're moving towards project structures, which means that teams are created for projects, right, where you can have more flexibility. And if the company wants to move towards an innovative space, right, you may not even be able to keep the project within the current organization. You may have to set it up as a separate reporting structure completely. Because if they report in the current organization, even though it's structured as project, they still will be bounded by cultural norms that will hold them back, basically. Yeah.
Holding on to that cultural norms, and tying it down to the leaders and to the employees, I think that there's also a miscommunication when it comes to this transformation. And the reason for that is that normally a leader is known to hold the power, hold the decisions, is the one that makes the decisions, the yes or no. And going into the Agile framework, it's more like the team decides where they're going to go based on what the customer needs and wants. And in a way, the employees might think, well, why do we need the manager then if we're the ones making the decisions? And this is where the misconception comes in. I was explaining this to a top manager here at a company, because they're going to have an offsite and talk about this topic as well. I just learned that yesterday. And the misconception is that a manager is supposed to take all the obstacles away from the team so that the team can do the work. Now, the team doesn't have the rank to do politics. And please tell me which engineer, which project manager, which of these people who are not a manager are good at networking, good at politics, and good at selling their ideas. So they're not good at it. That's why you need a manager who is able to bring your ideas to the top and is able to present it in a way that is going to grant you the access to fulfill or to create this idea. I mean, right now I'm training engineers to present their product at a big convention next week. And at the beginning, when we started, it's the same thing. I am an engineer. I'm not a sales guy. Why do I have to present and try to sell this product? That's the mentality. And that's where you have the manager taking care of all of that so that they can concentrate on the work. So when employees think that managers should be obsolete because they can decide, they need to understand that there's so much more to the role that they cannot even comprehend. And
Mhm.
on the other side, when it comes to managers, managers need to know that their job is not just to make decisions and to control people. That's not the job of a manager. A job of a manager or a leader should be to make sure that everything gets what they need so that they can fulfill their work at their best ability that they can, and for them to make it as easy as possible, for everything to flow. That's what a manager should do. Make sure that everything flows.
Yeah, I guess we always struggle with the distinction between a manager and a leader, right? As far as delivery is concerned, managers are trained for command and control. Yeah, so managers get people to do what needs to get done. Leaders get people to want to do what needs to get done. Very subtle distinction, right? And so the leadership qualities, if people just keep the manager mindset, and it's driven by command and control. You got to go into the leader mindset, and it begs the question. So, what do we need to do as a leader, right, to create a pool of people that can operate agilely or with agility? Uh, One of the biggest things that really can drive that is being able to trust each other. Yeah. It's so important that when the team gets together and to be able to really move fast enough, you got to trust each other. Yeah. So the question is, how do you build that trust? Team members must feel that they are respected and their opinion counts. They must feel safe enough to be able to raise problems and present, diverging views. And they also must be empowered to use their strengths. Yeah. So if you don't allow that, then you keep questioning their ability, they keep questioning their point of view in terms of when it's challenging the leader. Then it gets very difficult for them to develop that kind of trust, right? And trust really has got how do you define trust? It's trust is made up of character, integrity, competence, being able to do what you can do, and also consistency, which means having the freedom to do it consistently and being able to do it consistently, basically. Yeah. So the key thing is trust level in teams. As we've talked about it quite a number of times, there's no two ways about it, right? You got to build that trust, essentially. Now,
Exactly.
the other, the other, yeah, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, Tony. The other?
The other key thing is this, right? I mean, when you have a team to be agile, they need to be given the freedom to master the skills they want to master, and also be able to have the freedom to decide on how they want to work. Now, where is agility then really promoted? Take the example of 20% Google time. I always come back to this because it's so remarkable, isn't it? That in Google, you can give them 20% time to work on a project they feel can contribute a lot to the organization, but not a project handed down from the top, basically. Now, of course, we're not saying that they just come up with their own project and go ahead with it. No, there is a process and system by which they can get the project ventilated with their team, with their leaders, and agree on it. But it's their project and they work on it. But, it is, of course, sanctioned first before you proceed with it. And when you do that, you're giving them autonomy, the freedom to act, and you're giving them the freedom to master something they're passionate about, you see? And then, of course, you can see them responding pretty quickly, essentially, right? So number one, trust. Number two, mastery and autonomy. Yeah. And number three, of course, the leader. This is where the leader has got to really play the role of being the coach and mentor. Because there are some blind spots all the time. We all have blind spots all the time. Yeah. So I think the leader's role is very key in being there to be able to, notice those blind spots, notice the blocks that's holding people back. Yeah. And be the mentor and coach, because the leader has got more experience, got a bit more knowledge, a bit bigger picture, right? And he
And
can
Tony,
then guide them accordingly. Yeah.
and Tony, talking about that bigger picture, it is also very important that people at the employee level are able to see the big picture as well. Because we grew up doing one job, like if we are part of a conveyor belt and not thinking about the entire system. And now with this agility mindset, we need to see the bigger picture and see what is it that we are working on and why we're doing it. Hence, customer centric. So when we have the big picture, or when we, better yet, as a leader, communicate the big picture that everybody understands, then
Yeah.
you can also increase the trust there, because now everybody knows where we are all going and everybody can see the target instead of just thinking about, oh, I just do my job and that's it. That no longer is something that is playing a part at organizations.
Now, and that's why, that's why the agile team is able to move quickly, because you have these elements in place, basically. Yeah. And it's always said all the time, when you get a team together, you have to build the psychological safety every time. Yeah.
Or even if you
And give
get a
them
team,
the,
sometimes you don't get to build a team. Sometimes you're handed a team, and then you also have to build it anyways, and
yes.
through
Yeah.
communication.
And knowing where the resources are, it's like for me, right? Recently, I took on leadership of the institute in our country here, in our practice,
Congratulations,
right?
congratulations.
Now I'm thinking, okay, I've got three teams that look at different areas. How do I, get them to really give them a lot of autonomy, come up with some ideas, and focus on the customer, who are our members, coaches, and trainers, right? And slowly they're learning the process, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I've also got to be able to bring in the picture from the leadership team, the international leadership team, yeah, in terms of what's happening with that level, and bring it back down to the local level, and implementing that and aligning all of that. You see, so that's what the leader needs to do. To be giving them enough space, enough room to maneuver. That's what I mean by the autonomy and the mastery, and because they got to be the best in the area that they are passionate about. Yeah, I used to have a boss in Shell when I was working there, and he used to say that any one of his salespeople had better know their job better than he does, right? And I mean, if he knows their job better than they are doing that job, then they are out of a job. Right? So that's why building that autonomy and mastery is very important. So yeah, so mindset, systems and processes, and systems and then processes you got to put in place. And there are today various frameworks available, right? We said earlier, there's what you call Scrum, there's Kanban, so many different frameworks available for us to use today. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how to get it done. Yeah. So agility begins with trust.
Yes, that's a great way to conclude this podcast. And remember that operating from a place of fear is going to get you just so far. So you need to get out of the comfort zone, trust the process, and build the trust within your organization and your team so that you can really see it flourish. Because at the end of the day, this is, in my opinion, is about creating legacy. Do you want to be the best leader that the company has ever had? If the answer is yes, then you need to work on it outside of the comfort zone. So we're going to end it there. Have a beautiful day, everybody. I hope this was insightful. If you have any questions, please contact me or Anthony at any time, and we will be more than happy to discuss this topic with you even further. Have a beautiful day, and Tony, see you on the next one.
Yep. See you on the next one. Yeah. Cheers, man.
Bye-bye.